Take us back to when you get going with guys. I mean, you talk about being on time and swinging at good pitches. What are you looking at in a guy to create good rhythm and tempo within a swing to allow that adjustability factor? Maybe what's the teach that you're looking for, or maybe some things you're looking to change. You already kind of mentioned the ball tracking end. I mean, tracking every pitch, that's going to allow you to give some feedback of, did you swing at a good pitch? And the guys knowing that you're tracking that, immediately they're going to be able to have feedback for that. But I know for us, we started to implement the 7-ball, lay it down flat and have guys be able to identify that. I think that's been a great tool that allows guys to take some ownership of that. But talk about that, just that load phase, and were you helping guys to have adjustability within their timing?
Sure. To add on to your 7-ball, I love the 7-ball. It's an awesome feedback loop for the guys. I do have the rotation is as the hitter comes out of the cage, he goes around, and before he goes and takes his warm up or practice swings on the side, or, grabs his drink of water before he's going back in, he rotates to behind for his teammate. So our guys are getting feedback on their swings, and the guy behind is tracking more pitches. Whether it's behind, it's still working the eyes on the baseball. So as our guys hitting, because, we do a lot of machine work, and you can set the machine to away and have an away focus, but wet balls in the Pacific Northwest, man, sometimes they're running up and in, and, it is what it is. So they get that feedback of, like, the guy behind saying, hey, man, that was off by a ball, right? And then I'm there like, hey, 2 strikes, yeah, we're sweet at that, but this isn't 2-strike focus. You should take that pitch. You're not going to have height. And, or, hey, man, that was middle. And then maybe you nuked it or maybe you whiffed it. And so they're getting that feedback from their teammates every swing we take, especially on the field. So that's kind of an important piece there. And then with the rhythm and timing, this is what I use film for mostly, to be honest with guys, swing mechanics, sure, but mostly looking at their rhythm. And something I've kind of worked that resonates well with guys is I try to help them think about, like, when, like, work backwards, right? So, like, when do you need to start your swing? And you watch most pros are starting their swing by the time the ball's halfway to home. So that means in that first half of the distance, you've seen the pitch, you've figured out whether it's a ball or strike, you figure out whether it's a good one to hit, and you're hitting or taking. Well, I guess take can happen later, but you get what I'm saying. You got to get all that information in that first half of the pitch travel. So I really then break it down to our guys. I'm like, well, can you see and figure all that out while you're still moving? Probably not. I mean, if your head's still and you're moving a forward move to get into the swing, sure. So then we talk about, okay, so if we're seeing the pitch out of hand, we have halfway to figure that out. When do we need to be loaded? Like, to our max load, ready to move forward and swing. We say we want to be loaded by release, and then taking some film and really working guys through. You watch big league hitters, most of those guys load at handbrake. Some guys don't move that fast at our level. It just is what it is. So they got to start a little earlier or a little later, or we need to shorten the move up to get them to that max load by release, so that all you're doing at release is seeing the pitch and swinging or taking. So we really do kind of break it down that way and try to really help the guys see the why. So it's like, why am I telling you to load sooner 90% of your swings today? Well, because you're not seeing the pitch, man, right? You're late. And then helping guys understand that, you can hit a ball off your end of the bat and be late. That doesn't mean you were early. It just means your swing fell apart, so really kind of getting into the weeds of that is something we focus a lot on. And then that helps with pitch recognition, and it kind of all flows from there.
Do you have a preference of a teach, and I don't want to call it leg kick, like a hang or, a lift, a small move? Do you want a bigger move from guys? How do you kind of, is it individualized? How do you want that move to look?
I mean, my preference, to be honest, like, if I were to cookie cut guys, I'm not a huge fan of the leg lift, simply because a lot of guys just don't have the core stability to, like, maintain it and repeat it. Some guys do, which is great. So if you're smashing the ball as a coach, don't If you guys are smashing the baseball, wait to change them until they're not smashing the baseball. Right? I'm sure you guys feel that, especially in a short high school season. Yeah. But like, if they're smashing the ball, fine. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if they're having trouble repeating that and stuff like that, I'm a big fan of simple. You know, I was a simple hitter. I was always taught simple. You watch a lot of big leaguers. Most of them are simple. The kind of anomalies have the bigger moves. You know, you watch the World Series, you see half the guys in the lineup no striding. It's awesome. Love it. And stuff like that. You know, we're basically just trying to get into an efficient position. So however we can do that, it is different guy by guy. Some guys like to be tall and sink. Some guys like to be low and stay in it. You got to kind of work with the athletes and figure out what's comfortable for them as well. Because it's tough, man. Everybody's a little different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go. I was just going to say, just to add to that, Coach, I love that, you know, keeping it simple, right? It's the old example of KISS, right? Keep it simple, stupid, you know? And I think as coaches, sometimes we can just really overanalyze things to the point where now we become a detriment to the player instead of just letting them naturally progress through. And you're exactly right, especially in the high school season. Yeah, you have such a short window. Yeah, if a guy's just rolling, you just roll with it. I mean, so what? He's 10 feet from the fence. I mean, it may just come, or you'll be playing in Ellensburg and you'll get that gust of out to left field and it goes right over the fence. So, no, I just think that that's just a good reminder. Sometimes it's just that we can overanalyze to the point where it just becomes a detriment to our team than a benefit.
Well, to add to that, you know, like the more I ask questions of guys based on what they're feeling, I feel like I've become a better hitting coach throughout the years, because it's, you know, we have Twitter, we have all the analytics. So like, we know we want to get our bat on plane behind us at about like a 6 to 8 degree angle up through the zone, you know, when you want to be able to adjust and make that steeper for breaking balls, et cetera, et cetera. We know all that stuff now, which is cool, but some guys have different feels. Right. Like I can think of just before break, we were doing a challenge slider. And I have two hitters, one who is a little bit spinny on his front side. So he's a big barrel dump guy. So when he misses balls, he usually either swing and misses or flares them to right center field. Then I have another guy who we're trying to get the swing down out of his swing. We're really trying to get him to be on a positive attack angle up through the zone. And so you take those two hitters on the same drill. My guy who spins and barrel dumps, I cued him. I said, hey, man, keep your barrel above it. Keep your barrel above it. And then smash, 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 smash. You look at the data, swing plane's pretty good. The guy who is really short, compact with kind of a downward attack, I'm like, hey, man, swing and miss underneath the next few. And then it's smash, 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 smash. So it's, you know, again, a basic example, but every guy's a little different. So it's harder to just say one thing or another. And I think you learn that as a coach by asking a guy what you feel. Because the guy who's swinging down, he felt like he was swinging up. I'm like, well, you're not. But you feel like you are. So let's really miss under on this one. And then you can kind of figure that out. So that's the fun thing to me about coaching hitters, is because it is so much adjustment based, you know, and I think that, it just depends guy by guy.
That's funny, because like I had a guy last year that, you know, he's a freshman in the program, came in, and there was a couple things I saw, and I was like, so I started telling him right away. I almost pushed him away a little too early, because he was just like, what do you like? Who is this guy, right? And everything. There's other things to that story, but you know, it wasn't until I finally let him do it and then let him either fail or succeed at it. And then I revisited it in a week or so and had a conversation with him about, what is it that you feel this and what's happening here? And he finally was like, yeah, said, because this is what I was talking about. And having that conversation. Are you having, I guess I want to dive a little bit into cage drills and cage work, but are you having those conversations? Is it on field BP, or is it throughout your guys' progression that you do in your cages?
I'd say it starts in the progression in the cages, and then it kind of becomes on field towards the end of the season when, you know, you really don't want to break a guy down at that point. You just want that little cue, like, hey man, like really be hard through the middle. Okay, that dials him in or whatever. So that's that's that. In the cage is where we're really trying to get to where we're all speaking the same language.
Okay.
So a lot of the drill work I have these guys go through is kind of more on the old school end. I don't use a lot of gadgets. Gadgets are cool. I love learning about them. I like having our feet on the ground and hitting baseballs with regular bats, but we do a lot of no stride stuff. I put guys in different postures, starting points with their bat, like a shoulder drill I stole from Blast Motion. I love. You're just no stride. You're really feeling a good inward turn into your hip. The bat's on the side of your shoulder, and then you're feeling that release through. And that's where I can tell a guy like, hey, when we're talking about staying through the zone with our swing, that's the feel you want to feel, right? And then you can put a guy into like a scissor drill where you drop his back foot backwards, and you're really having him brace hard against his front side there. So then you can say, hey, man, this is what behind the front leg feels like. So then when we're on our cage round and he's getting over his front side and rolling over, I can say, hey, man, behind your front side, fix the posture, barrel gets home plane, things like that. A lot of adjustability stuff, a lot of barrel control stuff, a lot of rhythm stuff, just trying to keep them going from there. But I like them to feel solid in the ground in their drill work, or even to over-exaggerate. A great one I've enjoyed doing, we got some one-hand bats from Bomb Bat. And Bomb Bat's great. Their bats don't break as easy, right? So we got some one-hand bats from Bomb Bat. They're like maybe 20, 22 inches long, so they're pretty shorties. We do that shoulder drill on a flip down and away, ideally kind of right at the knees, to really make them feel that hip hinge, get over that out and away pitch, and get that tiny bat barrel to the ball without obviously reaching and becoming disconnected. Right. You get a guy who can do that, hit a line drive over the second baseman's head on that pitch. You put him with a 34-inch bat in his hand, that pitch becomes a lot more doable. Right. So just some over exaggeration stuff and things like that. But again, just feeling sturdy in the ground and going from there.
How do you like to challenge your guys? And you mentioned a couple, challenge drill or adjustability stuff, but maybe how you're building adjustability in some of your drill work. Is it unpredictability? Is it eye tracking? What are the kind of some of those challenge stuff drills that you do to kind of allow guys to cue in on what they're looking for?
Excuse me. Sorry. A lot of it is, to be honest, our machine work. I keep it unpredictable as far as like, they know we're hitting on machine for the day. They know the plan for the day. We just don't know what we're doing yet. And what I mean by unpredictable is different speeds, different shapes to pitches, different angles. Sometimes we might do a 90-mile-an-hour fastball out of the machine, but offset it 6 feet to the first base side of the pitcher's mound and really feel an over-exaggerated lefty angle. Vice versa on the right-handed side. Slow stuff, firm stuff, just really trying to get them to feel the right contact point based on the pitch, right? So one we like to do is the mini hack, really slow, loopy, almost slow pitch softball type curveball that they're hitting off that for a round. And then as soon as they're done with that round, hey, the reliever's in the game. We're popping into the other cage. You got Billy at 95, and you have 3 pitches to get a barrel. That's your goal. Can you make that tempo adjustment quick? Obviously, a lot of mixed stuff, a lot of live stuff, and then feedback. That's a fun one. That's a fun one. And you see guys really kind of fail because they'll be really, really early on that slow curveball, and then they'll be really, really late on the heater. But, they figure it out and start to get good feel for their body.
Is there always a goal to your machine? Is there always a goal to each machine one? I mean, is there ever you got around a 5, or is it always, you got 3 pitches to get a barrel? Are you always putting a task on those machines for guys to get in, get out?
Yeah, not always, because like I said at the beginning, right, you get better the more you do it. So sometimes we need them to get reps on the slider or the fastball or whatever it is. We need them to get reps to get that feel. But more often than not, towards the end of practice, yeah, I like to have a goal, or a simple one, which would be really good at the high school level, I think, is just like a barrel and adjust. We did this out at Campbell, which I really liked, and I've held on to this as a coach now, is like you get a max of 5 swings in your round, but you can only miss hit 1. So like first swing, kid gets fisted, adjust. Second swing, barrels. Third swing, fisted, you're out, right? And then you basically just have a goal of like, hey, man, you're just looking to hit a ball hard. I don't care if it's an out or a hit. We're just looking to hit the ball hard, and we're trying to get to 5. So who can get the most amount of rounds of 5 throughout the day? That's our winner. Try to give them some swag or something like that so they can feel good about winning. But stuff like that, which is simple. And then you can kind of change that output too, right? Like instead of just barrel without worrying about where it goes, you could go, hey, line drive, like no pop, line drive rounds. You could do no pop, no pull. You could do a day of no ground balls, right? And you kind of just switch that external cue up and keep challenging them. And that helps them build some barrel control, obviously. The other thing is when we started doing more of that, what I noticed is it really gets them dialed in on what pitch they're swinging at. Because takes are okay in those situations. For me, if we're not doing a 2-strike drill, takes are fine. So they start to learn like fisted, next guy, fisted, next guy. Then all of a sudden, buddy's like, oh, okay, I need to actually see a strike here, right? Like I need to actually get one that's above my thighs in the middle-ish of the plate that I can get extended on. And then it's barrel, okay, take on the black, fine. Barrel, take on the black. And they get to 5, which is cool. So they kind of like put that together for themselves, which is fun to see. Then obviously that translates pretty well to arms, I think, if you're doing it game-like or game pace.
Yeah, Coach, how much does it's not something we've talked a lot in past podcasts, but how much does the small game, play into your guys' preparation there at the plate and with your hitting type drills?
Sure. Sure. I have a love-hate relationship with the small game. I love it because it can really help guys. It can really help guys be better, and it can really help the team. Mm-hmm. It's hard to put a ton of training equity into it when 95% of the time you're swinging the bat. Mm-hmm. Obviously when the bunt situation comes, it's important. You need to execute it to win, but it's just like that, finding that balance. But my mentality on it for the most part is we work push and drag. So our bunt attempts are really for hits, right? And then if we don't succeed in getting a hit on the bunt, then it works as a sacrifice. So my ideal situation is first and second. If it's the point in the game where we need to put one down, we've worked on that, we can go drag bunt and hopefully we have bases loaded, or we could get innings started with the drag and things like that. So we really work hard on the drag and push. And we don't do a whole lot of sacrificing, if that kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. I like that because it makes it a little harder for the defense to read what's going on, things like that, the later shows. But we do a lot of drag and push. And then I try to explain to our guys that it really does boost their average. I mean, we're in a wood bat league. There's atom balls all over the place. If a guy can get 2 drag bunts down for hits in a 4-game series on a weekend, that's going to raise his average by 100 points. Or 200 points, and then you put that out to a whole season, you're just a more complete package deal. So we do practice that quite a bit. To be honest, in the fall, we don't do a lot of it. That ramps up towards spring. That's the kind of perk we have at our level. I know is we have a lot of time to work with the guys and stuff. So, that's kind of my 2 cents. Love the safety too, to be honest with you. You score the run any way you can. Love me some safety bunts.
Hey, man, I love it. That's so true because that's the challenge at the high school level, right? You get a kid that you have a bunt sign and he's like, dude, what are you doing? You're taking my average and decreasing it. It's like, no, I believe in your ability to get this drag bunt. I had a kid that graduated within our program about 4 years ago and hit, of course he wasn't a very gap to gap guy, but tremendous, foot speed. I mean, God's gift to speed. I mean, he played at great center field, good read on ball. But, he'd get up. He was our leadoff guy. And I get him to start off the at bat with the drag bunt down third base. And he was on every single at bat. And it really was like pulling team with the kid. Yeah, it was really. But at first, he's like, Coach, why do you keep giving me the drag? It's like, well, you're getting on. So the average is increasing. You're hitting solid here. Like if a college coach looks at your numbers, he's going, man, this kid can hit, granted, knowing that pretty much 90% of you doing is your drag bunting. But I just think that high school kids, they just don't quite see it, and I know, of course, I'm all about the big hit. We all love the big mash, the celebration, the ball over the fence, the walk-offs, those kind of things. But, I think it's all those things that correlate to the game that make it so unique and so exciting to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great, Coach. And then from my standpoint too, to be honest, I was slow as mud when I played. I was hitting a double, and then from second, it took 2 hits to score me. But nothing fires me up more than when we have a guy who hits a bomb, and then his next AB, he goes up and drag bunt single, and now all of a sudden he's 2 for 2. I think that's like ultimate athleticism as far as this game can go, to show you can do both ways. I think it fires me up.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. One other thing I want to ask about hitting, how much visualization do you guys work with your guys and preparedness? I mean, and where does that start? Is that the dialogue? I mean, in the dugout, to the on deck circle, to the plate. I mean, is that much in your guys' workout plan there?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it a little bit, and I try to have our guys have like a target in mind. So like visualize a success or a trajectory of their swing that they want based on how they're feeling. We really do try to talk about that and matching our approach. So if we're out ahead of a guy, maybe we're going to push that point of contact deeper. If we're late, we're going to try to yank it. We'll try to hit off the pitcher's face or whatever it may be. I really want them to have that picture of success going up to the plate. I mean, we don't do a ton of like visualization drills at practice. Most of our time spent swinging and things like that. But I do want them to have that goal of an outcome in mind coming up to the dish, if that makes sense. And honestly, you kind of hit the nail on the head, Coach. It should kind of start in the dugout. It should happen before you're on deck.
Right.
Let's before we wrap this thing up, let's get a little bit of base running talk going in, because
Sure,
I'm with you. I wasn't a speedy guy, but I could run the bases a little bit and shock the world with a stolen base every now and then. And talk about that, because it's one of those things that we like to talk it's the first thing we talk about in practice, right? The first day, right? And to become a modern day base runner and to be so efficient at it, there's no reason why your thumpers and your young guys, and Jason doesn't believe I was fast, dang it. That's really
hey, you could run the bases really good back to the shed at the end of practice. You were great at that.
Damn right, baby. And anyways, I have a stolen base against them Saints up there, Kelly. You were a welcome. I'm just saying.
Proud of you.
But anyways, back to my serious conversation. Talking about building that modern day base runner, and I think there's been more attention paid to it nowadays, and finding people's tendencies and how they do things and using that against them as a base runner. Talk us through some of the things that you guys preach or talk about or teach your guys.
Yeah, I mean, I get excited teaching it I just get excited teaching it because I was not a good base runner. I think I had one bag every year of my college career. So I could say I had a stolen base on the stat line, and I think I maybe had like 1 triple a year. But definitely was not the fleetest of foot, but it was something I always had interest in. And again, kind of back to Campbell, what Justin taught our hitters out there, was an aggressive vault, and Coach Goff was big on the vault as well. And I watched my teammate, Ben McEwen, who went Lower Columbia guy and wet guy, went on to get drafted. He stole 54 bags our senior year. And I watched him just dice pitchers apart with that. And then I was loving it as a hitter, because whenever he was on ahead of me, he was either on second or third, and that made RBIs for me easy to come by. So I kind of saw that bigger picture of the game. And that's something we really talk to our guys about a lot of, is one, we're trying to attack the pitcher more than anything. If there's a catcher who's lazy or not paying attention to us, we'll delay. That's in the toolbox. But ultimately, we're trying to attack the pitcher. If the pitcher's doing a good job of holding us, meaning we don't have an opportunity to steal where we feel like the percentage is high enough, then that means his mindset's probably more on us than the hitter, which I hope leads to him trying to be a 0.9 to the dish and hanging us a curveball where we can hit a double, or bouncing it in the dirt to get us to second base. So there is kind of that tug of war, right? That we're trying to play on the bases to take as much of that pitcher's attention off of our hitter as possible, because that's only going to benefit the guy at the dish. When we talk about, going in and attacking the pitcher and what he's doing, like, we've had fun with it. We teach some new school stuff. There's 2 shuffle guys, 1 shuffle guy, where we're trying to hit pitchers mind switch and kind of get that early jump. I know you see the Yankees doing it a lot with Tyler Rico teaching those guys. Like, it's awesome. You see that in pro ball now. The vault at second versus a walking lead and things like that. There's a whole lot of ways to go about doing it, but essentially we're trying to hit our jump on the pitcher's mind switch. And if he's fast to the dish, we're probably going to get some momentum. If he's slow to the dish and he's going to let us take the bag, we're going to get the second. And if he doesn't start holding us, then if he holds us tougher, hopefully we're getting better pitches to hit at the dish. That's kind of the big picture. I mean, if you guys want to get more specific in any of that, I'm all for it. But that's kind of the big picture of what we're trying to do.
Talk about the start of the teach for that. I know when we're teaching vault and some of those other things, we want it to be in a, for lack of a better term, safe place, right? So there's no pitcher, there's no ball. It's work on the skill first. Then you maybe add a coach where he's with the same rhythm. Then you add a coach with variable rhythms, and then you put the pitchers in there. But talk about that progression that you kind of build confidence in base stealing with some of those new tools.
I mean, you're right on. That's you kind of walk them up through it. You need to get the technique correct. It's same as building the swing, right? Like, let's get the body right. Let's get the technique right. Now let's add some rhythm. Now let's add in a pitcher. A lot of times I have our pitchers work their holds with us so that we're actually getting our jumps off of our own pitchers, but I'll put certain stipulations on them to kind of give our guys, when they're learning this, a chance to succeed. So it's not just pick fest, because you guys know some of those POs, they love to interfere base running. You just see how many guys they can pick off in a day. It's good stuff, man.
All of a sudden they have the best move in the world, don't they?
Oh, man. I try to remind those guys we're all on the same team. We're all on the same team. But, yeah, I put restraints on them. So I'm like, hey, 1 or 2 looks, inside move only, no spin move today if we're at second base. Because the spin move, as a third base coach, I'm reading that. I want our players to just be working on reading you. So no spin move or it's going to screw them up. And that gives them a chance to try to pick, but meshes with what we're trying to do or things like that. Right. Or at first base, like, hey, slide step only. And when we pick, maybe we're only picking 20%, but you can pick. But slide step only, and we're going to try to hit your rhythm, and we're going to be really aggressive. And adding that in gives the pitchers a chance to pick the guys off, because it's important for base runners too, I think, to know their limits. But you do want to build confidence. Another thing, if you want to take it full speed, what I like to do in inter squads is when we get runner on first or second, they have 3 pitches to go. If they go within 3 pitches and they're safe, they stay. They're safe. That's awesome. If they're out, they don't get called out. They go back to the base they came from. Mm-hmm. And it's optional now. They can go again if they want to, but now it's real baseball. So it really helps some of those guys who have that fear mindset of like, I don't want to go because if I'm not safe, my team's going to lose. It's like, hey, you're getting a free shot here to like learn as you go. And I like that too, because obviously it gets really aggressive. The catchers get more opportunities to work on their throwing as well. The pitchers are having more opportunities to hold runners. It creates a little bit of chaos. And that's kind of my favorite way to go about doing it.
Yeah, we've done that too. I think that tough one is like, how do you guys judge the pickoff? What if the guy gets picked off at first base? Is he out at that point, or you still give him another go?
I'd say early we let him have another go. Late, okay. The pickoff counts as an out. Yeah, I got you there.
Count it. Yeah,
because that's the whole thing.
One.
If
yeah,
we really don't want to get picked. We want to steal, and we've been doing about 86% every year, which I've been happy about that number.
Wow.
We don't steal 200 bags a year or anything, but we're like 120, 130 at 86%. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Nothing gets the pitchers more upset when they get a guy thrown off out at second base and he gets to go back to first base. Like, and we have to you have to teach it to him. Like, hey, this is why we're doing it, because we know our players love the why. They need the why constantly, right? But that look in their eyes when they get the guy out, that maybe they had the 12 pitch at bat for that guy to walk to get on bases, or he hit the flare early on, so they're already mad at the world. And now
he comes around and scores, right?
Yeah.
Then he comes around and scores, and he's like, "What the heck, man? That shouldn't count." Hey, you got to deal with some adversity.
It's so important just to teach the process and explain why you're doing things with guys, and for them to understand too that you're process oriented. Like, you're not going to hold it against the pitcher that he gave up that run. Like, that measly run is not going to be the difference of him pitching or not pitching this spring, right? Or someone getting thrown out or whatever it might be. So yeah, I think the more we can challenge each other in practice is definitely better.
I'd say, Kelly, too, you just got me thinking, a good way to frame it as well for the pitchers. It helps with that so what mindset too, man. Because so what if the guy's on first to get out of your inning? Like, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
So you might throw one right on the black of the plate. Umpire calls it ball 4, guys on first base. You gonna let him score? No.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, that's kind of a big thing there too. So, yeah.
And the success rate, I mean, I don't think it's that far off. I think in college baseball, I don't have numbers off the top of my head, just spitballing. It's probably at least 65 to 75% success rate stealing bases, right? So those guys have to be comfortable pitching with a guy at second base, right? And then we work on that in inter squads all the time. You start an inning with a runner at second base. So it's going to happen. A lot has to happen right in order for you to throw a guy out, especially at second base in a stolen base attempt, right? So even more the reason for guys to get used to being efficient. If you can throw out a guy at second, that's a big deal, right? You executed a good pitch, the catcher caught it, had a good exchange, he made a good throw, the middle infielder caught it, put on a good tag, umpire made the right call. Like, all those things have to go in play in order for you to get a guy out of second. So the odds are in your favor to roll the dice, right? You're going to be thrown out, and I know as a coach, the hardest part is dealing with that failure, right? Of shoot, we could do it today, but trusting the process and knowing that it's going to work in your favor. The more that you do it is super important, and I think the team just needs to buy into that, doing the things that you guys talk about doing.
Great point. Yeah, I love that. That's a great point. And just getting over the fear aspect with everybody. No fear, man. You can't be scared and play baseball. That's right. A fact, dude.
Amen. Amen.
Well, that's like our base runners. It's trying to teach them hey, you need to have a fearless, reckless abandon, but with intelligence tonight or today when you're running bases, and trying to create hey, if you do this and you have a reason as to why, and it was the right, I'm not going to chew your ass when you get back to the dugout if you've gotten thrown out, like Kelly just said, right? Everything went right. Maybe sometimes you're just slow. We just need to get a better jump, but trying to get your guys to have that fearless attitude on the bases, and I think it kind of led to some of our guys within the realm that how we steal bases. I didn't even have to give the certain signs and the certain timings that we were looking for, because it made them such a better natural baseball player, base runner, right? So it's such a good thing to get in your bases or your baseball player.
Oh, that's great, Coach. And that's similar to how we do it as well. I'd say probably 90% of the bags we steal every year are green light jumps for the guys. Obviously if as a coach, I don't think they're in a position to have a high success rate of going, we just don't turn it on. And you fake steal or do something to get that pitcher lined off the hitter, and you can kind of do your thing. But really building that lack of fear and that feel of knowing when is it a good jump versus when is it not a good jump. When should I turn it into a fake steal? When should I shut it down? And then trusting the guys to go green light. If you do all that well, theoretically you should be running in high probability positions every time you run. That still doesn't mean we'll be safe 100% of the time. But like that's definitely something we focus on as well. And it's really ultra aggressive early. Obviously, as the rubber meets the road, season progresses, playoffs approach. Yeah, we tighten it up a little bit, but if guys have good feel, I'm all for those green light reads. And then another thing I always have looming over me again is our guys are going to play somewhere else after Bellevue. I would rather teach my group of runners to be ultra aggressive and have a coach shut them off at the next level than the other way around and have a coach have to kick them all in the butt when they get there. Because I know Kelly doesn't want to have to motivate his guys to run fast. He wants to have them come and go right away, man.
I was gonna say, if your base runners are scared, tell them to get a big dog. But if you're watching our YouTube channel, Kelly got himself a big cat. So he ain't scared.
Darn right. He can run. He is a runner. Green light is always on around these parts. What are your what?
Go ahead.
No, go. You got something great to say.
I was just gonna say, man, I did go by the big cat back in the day, so I relate.
Nice. There you go. That's why he knew. We're near the end here, and we had to have a big cat appearance. What are your times like? What you're looking at as a coach? Like, what are your? Is it do you do combined times? Is it sub 3-4? We're not doing stuff. Are you looking for 3-5, 3-6 from combined pitcher catcher? What's kind of your number?
Depends on the guy. So I don't do this early just because the data doesn't mean a whole lot early because I want them to have feel for their own jumps. But before we start playing games that count, we go through and we test each jump. So like the time of our vault at second, the time of our new school 1-hop, new school 2-hop, old school, right? We time the time that it takes those guys to do that. And then I put a little cheat sheet together I keep in my back pocket and then do some mental math. And if his jump is below the pitcher catcher combo, we're probably green light. If his jump is above it, then we're probably not, unless there's a delay or something sneaky mixed in there, or like we got the guy's rhythm so we can get a plus go, but there is definitely that method to the madness as well. So I try to build a lot of freedom with the guys, and then we try to be intelligent about it down the stretch.
How do you time your guys? At what point are you starting that watch? Are you having them slide, run through second base? How do you do that?
Good question. So obviously we measure out each jump. So the old school's 13-ish feet jump. The new school is probably like an 8-foot start into a 10-foot starting point. And then obviously with the vault, we're getting out there pretty far. So anything that happens pre-pitch, I don't add to the time. So like on the new school, they take their shuffle, and then as soon as they take their first move to go from the shuffle, then we have, cones set up so they're not cheating it, because you don't want that guy taking a 17-foot jump at first. That's not really realistic. Right. So we're within like 10 feet on the new school. So they when they hit that first go, that's the starting point. Or like if we're doing a walking steal, you're starting on that first sprint step, which would be kind of like when the pitcher is going to the plate.
Right.
So that's kind of where we time it. And interestingly enough, man, most guys from like a 13-foot old school jump into like a start at 8, take off at 11-foot new school jump, most guys are like 2/10, like 2 full tenths faster on the new school. Not everybody. Some guys are slower. It's funny how that works, probably hip mobility or something like that. But most guys are like 2/10 faster, which is cool to actually see that.
And you are sliding, you said?
Sliding head first into the bag.
Got it.
Preferably,
I think all of us that teach that kind of some of those methods, like just backtracking a little bit, we're trying to get that jump on the pitcher's first move on leg lift, right? So if we don't get that read when we're vaulting, we're not going, right? We're shutting it down. So in order to get that timing element, we want it to be them starting perfectly on rhythm in time. And we can see this as coaches, the guys that, hesitate or jump it too early. Usually it's the hesitation we see more often than the guys going too early. But Yeah, that's awesome. You're doing good work there.
That's fun, and it's different, and that's a way some guys really feel like they can contribute to the team. And we had a kid who played for me, Nick Hovland, one of my favorite guys I coached. This great dude. But anyways, he went on to play at UW after playing for us at Bellevue, and Nick was probably a 7'4", 60 guy. He'll probably be mad at me for saying that on here, but it's the truth, Nick. I love you. You're not fast. But he stole 17 bags his sophomore year. He was 17 for 18. So when you do it the right way, you can see guys have some success and pick and choose the right moments to do it. So it's fun to see some of those guys do that too. Actually, some of the slower runners, Coach, nod back to you with your old base running days. Some of the slower runners I've had have been the better guys that do it.
Dang right. Absolutely. You got to be so smart. You become so efficient.
Off air, David, you didn't see this because you're not in our group chat. Off air, I dove deep into the GNAC archive and found the 2011 Central Washington baseball stats. And as promised, Mr. Coach Eric Sorensen was a 1-for-1 in stolen bases.
Damn right.
Not a liar. Confirmed that.
There you go.
True.
100%.
I think everybody about their jaws dropped and shot. He actually ran. How did that guy get there?
Oh, man. Was it a head first slide there, Sorensen? Or was it a feet first?
I just was trying to get there. I don't. Who knows?
More of a stumble, probably.
Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll stick with the stumble. I love it.
Man.
Awesome. Well, we could honestly go all night. This has been so much fun to break this down tonight with you, Coach, and thank you so much to take an hour and a half of your night tonight just to talk some baseball here on the week before Christmas.
Yeah, no, this is great, and I appreciate you guys having me. And that's the fun thing about doing this is, we all love baseball, so it's pretty easy to talk about it. I think it's not like we're being forced to do something we don't enjoy doing. Right? This is great.
Absolutely.
And you guys are doing a great job. This podcast is awesome. A lot of stuff I've learned just from listening and, like I said, catching up on a few extra episodes when you guys reached out to me and learned a lot. It's a really good job. I appreciate you guys for doing it.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been one of the best things that ever happened to COVID that came out of this one. So, and Jason not taking the answer no when we decided to do this, and I was like, no, I'm glad we did it. So awesome. Well, thank you so much, and I hope to see you down the road here. And good luck this spring.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck to you guys too. I'll be following you all seasons. Hopefully,
appreciate it.
Hopefully, we all have more in the win column than the L column, right?
Damn right. Absolutely. Heck yeah. Well, Jason and Kelly and I'll be right back to wrap this thing up. I'll pause the video.
I opened last. So
now entering from the bullpen.
You want to do that again real quick?
Now entering from the bullpen.
All right, we're back to wrap this thing up on our Christmas. I guess when this gets released, it'll be after Christmas, the week after Christmas, this part of it. But wrapping up our episode with David Olson, co-head coach at Bellevue Community College, and someone, I don't know who, is going to kick this thing off. Me?
Sure, I'll go.
Kelly, go.
Yeah, I've known David for quite a while now, and he's got a great, personality of that, not too serious, but, very confident in his ways and how he instructs, and just great to have conversations with, and the stuff that he does. I really value what they do at their club, and how they take care of the player development. It's not, a cattle call school where they're just trying to bring in as much as possible. They do a really good job at vetting what they do, and there's a reason why they have success. And it's gonna kill them. It's gonna kill them with some years. Like I've seen it firsthand, where you get a couple catchers injured, and they're kind of back up against the wall. But they really value that moving guys on and that individual instruction time that he talked to. And it's something that we constantly battle of trying to give guys enough of your time. And, it takes a lot to be able to do that for guys at all levels. And you guys, especially with your lack of off season and sped up timeline. So it's great to see that he's doing that. Obviously he's very good in his ways. It's kind of a more simplistic approach with some new age stuff mixed into it. So he's open to ideas, but at the core of it, it's very, old school type baseball, right? We can have old school baseball with new ideas mixed into things constantly, without trying to do everything one way or everything a different way, to be able to take a step back and say, like, this has worked for a long time. This has worked for me. This worked for other people. So, why abandon it type of deal. So there's a reason those guys have success there, and guys want to come and play there for them, and really love those guys there, and they do a great job. So excited to follow them, and Coach Olson's been a huge impact for what they've done.
Yeah, that was fun getting to meet him tonight and have him on the call, because it was always, like you just said, Kellen, it's always fun to have the new school talks, but with the old school mentality and how they do things. It seems like, from what we, talking to him tonight for the first time, it was really informative, and a guy that I know for a fact that we're going to have on again in the next coming seasons, because we got through some of our list of questions for him, but we still got a lot on there and a lot to deep dive into the nuts and bolts. And that was a lot of fun diving into that tonight with him and teaching base running. I always get geeked out about base running, and then also, teaching hitters this year, because that'll be my role this spring, is going back into the hitting side of stuff. And it was just a lot of fun. And I think there's going to be a lot of coaches that will listen to this episode twice, 3 times, just to make sure they can get caught everything that was said tonight. And I'm excited to follow their program. I'm excited to follow his success as a coach, and it's kind of, we just grew that community a little bit bigger tonight.
Yeah, Coach Sorensen, I would have to say it, to all our fans out there, it is actually accurate. You were 1 for 1 on base.
Damn right I was.
Extremely impressive. And I
wasn't going to
apologize
say it on the podcast, but I have
for my laughter early on. I literally ate crow right there. When I got the confirmation of the statistics. Kelly, what year was that, by the way?
It was 11, probably.
2011.
2011. Okay. Yeah. University of Central. Central University.
That's right.
That's right, man. 1 for 1. Yeah. Having Coach Olson on tonight was, some things he really pointed out to me was that, he talked about program development and your pillars and your core value and just kind of that legacy that they have continued year in, year out developing, and those are a lot of things I think are just, man, those are huge to your development and your success as a program. And a couple other things too is just the aspect of small group workouts. That's kind of something a little bit unique. Not a lot of us are maybe used to it. I mean, more of it probably on the high school side, but having a group of smaller guys that together and kind of fine tuning their tool and just getting them a lot more successful and allowing them to be comfortable and where they're at. And then I think it's kind of the last thing that really stuck to me tonight, guys, is the 3 types of players, the player, the baller, the banger. And I think those are really good things to add to, basically my list of, notes, as a coach, we all kind of take in a little bit here and there. And we're just growing, absolutely. Like we kind of go on and on about this, but that's the aspect of becoming good at what you do at your craft. You take information from others and apply it to your style and your core values of what you're trying to develop as a coach and as a program. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again to Coach David Olson, co-head coach at Bellevue Community College. And if you like this episode, please get on Apple, iTunes, Spotify. I think they rate this thing. Give us a review. We love our reviews. If it's not going to be 5-star, don't bother. 5 stars only. So, and if you could just, click subscribe, unsubscribe, subscribe, and do all that kind of stuff so we can just keep growing this thing even more. And no, but appreciate all you listeners and how much this has grown. And we are fired up to see everybody at the Central Washington University on February 9th and 10th for the Washington State Baseball Coaches Association Clinic. It's brought to you by our title sponsor, AstroTurf. It's Greg Swenson doing some awesome things for our association, and fire it up for everybody that's going to be there for the after-hour social at the Red Lion Banquet Hall. Hotel rooms will be at the Red Lion, and a lot of fun stuff planned for this. And we're excited to sit in a room with baseball guys and talk baseball. And you're going to love seeing CWU. Sorry, Kelly. I shouldn't be shouting them out with you on the call, but you're going to love Central, their new upgraded field house in Nicholson Pavilion. And fired up just to talk baseball with everybody in February and get ready for this thing to go. Thank you to Safeguard out of the Tri-Cities. Thank you to Devo Bats. And we look forward to being back on the call with you next week.
You know, Eric, one thing to add, this is our last podcast of the 2023.
That's
season.
Right.
Bring
on 2024,
so
baby.
We'll be back in 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be some good stuff, man.
Great
It's
stories.
getting bigger and better each and every time.
Great
All right.
stories.
Let's get out of here. I got to get to bed. I'm old. All right. Take care, everybody. Pacific Northwest Fungo Banter is a part of the Big Country Media Podcast Network. Please go follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. You can also watch our podcast on YouTube. To find us, just search Pacific Northwest Fungo Banter. And a big thank you to our sponsors, Devo Bats and Safeguard out of the Tri-Cities.